Sunday Night Football, we have the San Francisco 49ers and the Indianapolis Colts. The 49ers are favored at home by 4.5 points, and the over-under is a little bit low at 44.5. And on this game, I wanted to point out that San Francisco is just a completely different animal when Garoppolo is under center. 24-10 with him, 7-28 without him. As for the Colts, Carson Wentz has been on the rise, and so has Jonathan Taylor, but unfortunately, he has to deal with the team in the 49ers who hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher since week 9 of 2019. So, Matt, what do you think is going to happen Sunday Night Football, Colts traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers?
So in this game, I've got two opinions on this one. I'm going to take the under on the game. I don't see a whole lot of points being scored back and forth. San Fran, they're kind of like, they remind me of the Bengals so far this year and how they performed. Where like right now their secondary is banged up, but they're just pesky enough and well coached enough just to make things difficult for the opposing team. Now, where I'm gonna take the Colts to cover this spread though. The Colts have been playing much better the last few weeks. They made life very difficult for the Ravens. And realistically, if Blankenship hadn't just like popped his hip that game, there's a really good chance they would have won. Which I know Tyler's still having emotional flashbacks because, well, let's just say he prefer ending his football on Sunday night because Monday night has not been that kind to him the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to take the Colts here to cover. I believe that they've started to find a good balance inside their offense. We didn't see a lot of explosion from their pass catching weapons last week. And I believe a lot of that really just had to do with the game script of Texans suck, run the ball. They ran the ball almost 60% of the time, pass when you just need to move the chains if you get put into an uncomfortable spot. Now we're going to have to watch and monitor T.Y. Hilton's practice reports this week. He started off hot against the Texans like he always does. He owns the Texans and then had to leave early with, I believe it was a quad injury. So I want to monitor that there. But also Paris Campbell's now going to be out, it looks like, for just a little bit. So from a Colts pass catching weapon standpoint, if Hilton plays, I think you could start him. Worst case scenario in this, by apocalypse. But I'm still very high on Michael Pittman. Outside of last week, when the game script didn't call for a lot of pass catching work, he's been consistently on the rise, getting 8 to 10 targets a game. We saw him have a mini breakout type of game against the Ravens where he jumped up and mossed one of the defenders. And he's been having a lot of, he's developed some good chemistry there with Wentz. Whereas now Jimmy's coming back, which is a good sign. But the strength of the 49ers has always been their ability to run the ball and create mismatches from there. They're still missing Kittle. We haven't seen an ability for them to get Ayuk worked into the game plan. And, maybe that's just him not showing up in this second year, which is really what it's looking like. So you're missing Kittle. You don't have Ayuk going. Debo's been showing up, but even those last couple of weeks too, there were some wide open busted coverages that even helped him get his box score a little bit up. Whereas the last real game we saw, I know the Cardinals defense is fantastic. It was against Lance. It's going to be a little bit different of a game plan, but I just haven't seen a whole lot of explosion out of the Niners. So I think this is just going to be a close, ugly-ish kind of game. And I believe the Colts are actually going to be able to squeak out the win. But most importantly, I think they're going to cover the spread. And so from there, I'm also going to, like I said, I'm going to take the under on this one.
Yeah, Matt. So I find myself in a very similar camp. If I was betting a money line this week, Colts would be my money line pick as far as dogs go. I also like the under. I just look at this team and they're not a 2-4 team. They are technically, but they're just really not a 2-4 team. You throw out Carson Wentz's first start, they lost by double digits to a Seahawks roster that has primarily been together for so long, and Russell Wilson always wins these games. They had a 3-point loss to the Rams. They had a single-digit loss to the Titans, single-digit loss to the Ravens, and they beat the Dolphins. They beat the Texans, who they were supposed to beat. I think the biggest problem with the Colts that we just haven't seen yet is they haven't gotten a marquee win, but they really haven't played. They haven't played any middle of the pack teams other than, now Seattle, obviously after everything that they've gone through with Russ going down and everything. Now they're middle of the pack, lower tier. but they've either played top 5 teams or bottom 5 teams. We haven't seen them play another middle of the pack team. I think the 49ers are one of those middle of the pack teams. I really, really liked them coming into the season as far as them potentially being, one of the top teams to watch this year. But obviously Mostert going down, Kittle finding his way onto IR, Garoppolo missing a couple games. It's been a rough stretch for the Niners. I think the Colts are going to be able to sneak this one out. I think Carson Wentz is going to be able to put the Colts on the radar on prime time. And I just don't see it being a super high scoring game. I think at this point with these two teams, you know who you're playing. You're playing Debo. Whoever the starting running back for the Niners is going to be, you can slot him in. Jonathan Taylor's in your lineup. Pittman's in your lineup. Don't know how I feel about the T.Y. Hilton play, just because I just don't see a lot of points to go around. But if you wanted to do it, I wouldn't hate it. And I know most of the time if you're flexing T.Y. Hilton, you probably don't have a lot of other options. But I'll turn it to you, Jake. What do you got?
Yeah, so you guys pretty much nailed it on the head for me as well too. I like the Colts in this one. I've been on the Colts side. If you kind of pay attention to my picks that have been going on lately, I just think they're a lot better of a team than what they've been producing. I know a lot of it is because of injuries, and I mean this week I'm a huge Pat McAfee fan, so I pay attention to his podcast and stuff, and he hinted he's terrible at keeping sources, but he hinted that T.Y. Hilton is going to be fine this week. And if you pay attention to Pat McAfee, we all know his source is actually T.Y. Hilton. So he said that he's going to be fine this week to play. So I think I'm especially during this week, during the bipocalypse, I think Carson Wentz has been playing the best that he's been playing for the Colts so far. So I'd be fine to throw out TY this week. I know quads are kind of scary to deal with. Tyreek kind of went in and out last week with a quad, but I'd be fine playing him this week. But yeah, I like the Colts to cover in this one. I do like the under. I think it's just going to be a slow, running out game. Both teams are at 2 wins right now. Both underperforming teams compared to what they were supposed to be at the beginning of the season. Everybody had high hopes, especially their fan bases. They all had high hopes for these two teams, and they just haven't performed. I'm not necessarily excited about this game. Very underwhelming game. Somebody has to win. Two good teams can really kind of help themselves make a name in their, or to not put themselves out of their division contention. So both of these teams really need a win. I think Colts knock it out on this one. So I'll take the Colts to cover. Tyler, like you said, wouldn't be upset at taking the money line on this one, especially in a parlay, just to throw it in there for better odds. And I do like the under in this one.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take too much time to add anything here. I have the exact same picks as all of you, so it's a unanimous from us, Colts plus 4.5 and taking the under. I did want to throw out one thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking about the Thursday night football game is I was thinking that the Browns were last year's San Francisco 49ers, but I'm pretty sure that this year's San Francisco 49ers is last year's San Francisco 49ers. They're just getting beat up by injuries yet again, and they're not living up to expectations because of it. Thank you for listening to this little highlight of the 2-Minute Drill podcast. If you want to follow along to other games, here's a playlist for you. If you want to listen to the show in its entirety, show links are in the description. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.